How will the next generation of mobile technology redefine our digital world? Well, today I have the huge privilege of speaking with MG Pecorari from Vodafone. And she's going to be shedding light on the groundbreaking advancements of 5G Standalone, or 5G SA. So today I want to demystify 5G SA, talk about exactly what it is, the problems that it solves, and how this technology promises to revolutionize network management and customization through capabilities like network slicing. And also I want to explore how 5G SA can transform sectors as far and wide from healthcare, media, retail, and so much more by ultimately offering real-time, low-latency connectivity. Before we welcome our guest onto the podcast today, though, delivering daily content to 140,000 of you wonderful monthly listeners across the globe is no small feat. I don't want to take all the credit here because it wouldn't be possible without the backing of our dedicated sponsors and partners. I also want to shine a light on the fact that legacy managed file transfer tools are dated and lack the security that today's remote workforce often demands. And companies that continue relying on that outdated technology often are in danger of putting their sensitive data at risk. So in the world of secure file transfers, Kiteworks stands alone. With their FedRAMP moderate authorised since 2017, it is now known as the gold standard in MFT security. And with yearly audits and continuous monitoring, Kiteworks doesn't just meet standards, it sets them. For example, if you need CMMC compliance, Kiteworks fast-tracks your authorisation, saving you both time and money. You can step into the future of secure managed file transfer with Kiteworks today by visiting kiteworks.com to get started. That's kiteworks.com to get started today. But now it's time to dive into today's fascinating conversation with my guest. So buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to London, where today's guest is waiting to talk about all things 5G SA and also the future of mobile networks and the potential that it holds for enhancing our everyday digital experiences. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell everyone listening a little about who you are and what you do?
Hello, Neil. It's wonderful to be together today. Thank you for inviting me to your podcast. My name is MG, that stands for Maria Grazia or Mary Grace in English, Pecorari. I lead strategy, business development, and the wholesale business for Vodafone in the UK. Vodafone is one of the mobile network operators in the UK. We serve 18 million customers. We also have a broadband service for more than 1.3 million customers and growing. And we were the first to market last year with the 5G SA. Very excited about it, and that's why I'm here today.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that. It's one of the reasons I was excited to get you on here, because every day we talk about a different subject and try and demystify it, talk about it in a language that everyone understands. And most people listening, I would imagine, will know all about 5G, but 5G SA, probably not so much. So what is 5G SA? What does it mean for Vodafone and also for the future of UK connectivity?
Great question, Neil. And what I'd like to do is actually start with the last part of your question. So really thinking about the future of connectivity, but also what does mobile connectivity mean for us as customers? And to do this, I like to do a little bit of history because I think it's very important to put the 5G SA in context. So if I go back to 2012, which is essentially at the start of 4G, the average UK customer used about 0.09 gigabytes of data. Would you believe it? Which is something like 1 to 2 minutes a day of social media use. It's almost like incredible. Yeah. Fast forward to today, the average UK customer uses around 8 gigabit of data, which is between 2 and 3 hours a day of social media use. So in other words, really the amount, what we actually use the network for and the amount, what we use it for and the amount of data that we consume has grown actually something like 90 times over that period. And fundamentally, we're facing a tsunami of data use on the mobile network that has no equivalent in fixed. And the fundamental enabler of this explosion of data usage has been the evolution in network technology. So in 2012 was the start of 4G. 2019, that's when operators started launching 5G in the UK. And now really we are at the next chapter of evolution of 5G, which is 5G standalone. We were the first to launch last year. And what the 5G standalone brings is a set of incremental capabilities in the network, which are truly transformational and really exciting. And so that's what I want to talk to you about. What's the difference at technical level, and actually then what does that mean in terms of what the people are going to be able to do?
Yeah, there's so many exciting things happening in this area at the moment. I recently had trouble with my home broadband, for example, and I was tethering from my phone, and I realised that the 5G connection was actually performing better than my home broadband. So there's going to be a lot of big changes there. But I'm curious, what do you see as the most exciting capabilities that 5G standalone technology will bring to customers?
Yeah, so let me explain actually from a technical perspective what's the difference, and then what does it mean in terms of usage, right? So fundamentally, when we look at the quality of mobile network experience, that's underpinned by different network components. So you have the radio networks, all the towers and the mast that you see on top of buildings and in fields, etc. And there are many thousands of them everywhere around the country. So that's what we call the RAN, radio access network. Then you have the backhaul, which is a set of cables and wireless assets that allow to aggregate all the network. And then you have the core network, which is essentially a combination of big physical pipes that aggregate and, manage all this network, but also very importantly, the network intelligence, all the functions that control the network and that sit at the core. And those capabilities are really important because fundamentally that's the brain in the network. And with 5G, only 5G, no standalone, the investment is fundamentally concentrated in the radio access part. So what you have in all the mast is more efficient, more powerful equipment that enables a mobile operator to use also greater spectrum allocation. So essentially, it really increases capacity, but it but also increases the efficiency of the network. What the standalone does is introduces new capabilities in the core, virtualize the capabilities, software-based, that are fundamentally different from 4G. And so standalone actually is there to signal that the capabilities of 5G in the core of the network are entirely separate, a new technology, and not interdependent from 4G. And what that does, it enables overall to have a more efficient network that enables a better experience, but also with very different use cases. And in that, the use case that is often referred to as a very transformational one is the network slicing capability. So what does that mean is that you can create dedicated slices in the network, which is a way to use a section, a capacity of the network, but in a way that has guaranteed the performance in terms of speed, the latency, or other, for a certain use case and for a certain set of customers or users, which is completely independent from what happens to all other customers who are using the network at the same time. So it's almost like, if you think about a big motorway, it creates a preferential lanes with a guaranteed speed of driving, up and down. And so that greater flexibility really opens a huge amount of opportunities in terms of what you can really do with mobile connectivity.
And I had a similar conversation with Netgear about Wi-Fi 7 on the bandwidth issues there. And you mentioned how much data we were consuming. And I think that competition for bandwidth is such an important one now. And in the average home, I suspect if you looked at how many devices were connected to your home router 10 years ago to now, I would suspect there would have been 3 or 4 back then. And now there is 50, 60, 70, 80 items there, from doorbells to toasters to games consoles and everything. And of course, all these devices are competing for bandwidth when you want to have that important work call. And the reason I bring that up as well is one of the things that I was reading about before you came on the podcast is that there's a great opportunity for the UK's public buildings with this technology. Can you expand on that for me?
Sure. And before I go into public buildings, let me just speak on the comment that you've made.
Yeah.
Truly, the network, whether it's fixed or mobile or in all its various forms, is the nervous system of digital. And our entire digital lives, in a way, really depend on this ability to be connected and to connect to devices in a way that is very seamless, high performance, and highly dependable. And really what the 5G SA does adds that extra bit of magic, if you will, to enhance the number of use cases. And I will start covering the examples of building, infrastructure, etc. But then I also want to cover other examples that really bring it to life, how cool and exciting and transformative the ability to use this technology is. So before I go into building, to bring it to life a little bit more, let's think, for example, of infrastructure generally, and let's think about the case of, let's say, electricity grid. So think about high voltage lines within an electricity substation. So these stations are anywhere in the country, many times in very remote places that are not accessible by any other kind of network. However, this is really highly critical infrastructure that needs to be managed and on a reactive and proactive way extremely well. And so, for example, where a network substation goes down, the other substation in the grid needs to be brought down and then brought back up in a very controlled manner. So what does 5G, but then even more 5G SA does? It provides in a way that guarantees the speed, but also that peace of mind, that very valuable piece of equipment, a piece of infrastructure is always connected at the right level with the right speed, and is always on. And so it provides that layer of connectivity that enables to monitor that highly critical infrastructure. So then you think about the combination of 5G with IoT, so sensors everywhere, but also, for example, digital twins, so that the ability to create a virtual representation of a certain environment. And so be an hospital or a school or a dam or, any really kind of infrastructure. So then you have the ability to monitor, manage, reactively and proactively any kind of infrastructure in a way that is very consistent, relies on the same technology, doesn't need a patchwork of different type of connectivity to manage energy consumption, to avoid the faults, to make it proactively, to mitigate the faults reactively when they happen. And so the benefit in power saving, reduction in CO2 emission, or just generally avoiding breakages and breakdown is really, really quite material. And so when we think particularly about the state of infrastructure in the UK generally, be it a railway or electricity network or schools and hospital, I really think that the 5G provide this extra lever to really help us take care of these assets in a way which is more efficient, either in terms of environmental impact, but also monetary impact.
And you mentioned so many important aspects of the critical infrastructure that we often take for granted, from power grids to railways and schools, etc. And this gets me thinking, what about the NHS? How could hospitals benefit from these 5G powered technologies? And any examples you could share around there?
Absolutely. So we have done, we have many collaborations, and one of them is with the University of Coventry, where essentially with a number of, with the university and with a partner, we piloted a solution whereby a lecturer using a VR can provide a very immersive experience and goes into the human body. And so that enables to provide a kind of real life 3D experience of going into the human body and seeing all the different parts, and deliver a lecture to medical students, to nurses, wherever they are. So they could be in a class in front of a PC, they could be at home in front of a PC, they could be on the move in front of a mobile. And so again, you have a solution which in a way can work anywhere. And if you do 5G SA, can work with a guaranteed level of bandwidth, a level of speed to deliver the right level of experience, because you want this to be low latency, real time. Now think about that, but in a context of, for example, remote field force or remote healthcare assistance. So people that need to go, to see patients, right? The people that are on the move. Imagine the opportunity where I'm actually visiting a patient, or I could even be performing a procedure, but I have someone elsewhere that can provide real-time advice, support, monitoring. And I can do it with a network and a capability through slicing that never lets me down. I could, as a doctor, participate real time and actually being able to influence and interact with an operation happening in an hospital elsewhere. So all of a sudden, think about the opportunity of removing one obstacle, and which is the lack of physical presence. And if you think about the experience, right, how clunky sometimes it can be, in getting hold of a healthcare professional, in being visited, etc. The potential opportunity to offer a more immersive, real life experience with connectivity, which is safe, consistent, never lets you down, but also removes the obstacle of physical distance whenever it is appropriate. These are the kind of these are the kind of experiments, pilots, innovation that is really at the center of healthcare provision, but can be fields of force management and monitoring of equipment, for example, because you have a technician that can for example, intervene remotely on, or provide guidance remotely on an environment which is not very safe. So you don't want too many people there. So these are the set of opportunities that 5G SA enables from a perspective of connectivity. But there are many, many more that go beyond NHS, go beyond the management of buildings, and really affect our life day to day in ways we don't even think about, but actually are there. And I'd love to talk to you about a bit more, some example, Neil, if you want them.
Yes, absolutely. I'd love to hear that, because I think it really brings it to life to hear these examples. And one of the big themes of this podcast is getting people thinking differently about technology, especially areas that they don't automatically associate with tech.
Yeah. So for example, like one of the big advantages of the network is that we move as humans. We are out and about all the time. So we travel to work, we travel to holiday, we go to our everyday life, but we also go to big events. So for example, and just to give you an idea of what's being demanded of mobile network, in the Taylor Swift concert in the Principality Stadium that happened a couple of months ago, 3.3 terabytes of data traveled over the Vodafone network on that night. So that means that the people in the stadium that were using the Vodafone network probably consumed that night what an average user would consume in 3 to 4 weeks.
Wow.
Exactly that, right? So we don't think about it, but the mobile networks actually do pretty amazing things, right? But what happened is that also reveals the strain that networks can be put on, and therefore the opportunity that 5GSA, particularly with the slicing capability, can create. So, for example, last year when we, with the coronation, Vodafone partnered with the ITN for the broadcast of the coronation event. And so when a camera streams content back into the studio gallery for broadcasting, typically it's done, you have a van, a truck connected to satellite, and then the van is linked through a cable with the camera. And if you think about it, like you see, right, those van with the satellite in many big outdoor events. But what that means is that it's a pretty clunky solution. You need a van. It's expensive, and you're also limited in your mobility because the cameraman is tied by the cable to the van. Now, enter 5GSA. All of a sudden, you don't need a van linked to the satellite. All you need is a backpack where you have a mobile connectivity through one SIM. But because it's 5GSA slicing, you have the guaranteed throughput and speed. So even if you have many thousands of people, in the center of London, putting a lot of pressure on the network, actually your slice is guaranteed. Wow. And so all of a sudden you have a solution which is much simpler, easier, not a van, a backpack, you can move around, but with a very high confidence of the underlying quality of connectivity. Like in another example, so that's kind of pretty exciting and it sort of makes a difference, no? And so, like another example very similar, if you think about, again, imagine London for argument's sake, and you are a reporter, a photo reporter, and you need to take pictures for events, can be sport, can be political. You need to send your pictures, upload your pictures back into your news agency, in the news agencies pretty quickly. And typically what happens today, photo reporters have more than one SIM and know which spot to go to upload their pictures because you don't want to time out. Yeah. But with 5GSA, as long as you have a connection, you're connected to the network, you have guarantee that your photo is uploaded very, very quickly. So it really, 5GSA has the opportunity of removing friction in a way from, and enhance our opportunities to participate to events, to do our job, to go about our lives, in a way that, without 5GSA, you cannot. And let me provide another example, which I think is really quite interesting and really brings to life the real, business value and business benefit of 5GSA. So Vodafone is the connectivity partner to the Glasgow event. And as you know, at the Glastonbury, thousands and thousands and thousands of people, like people everywhere. So, this year we partner with a number of bars, at the event to connect the payment terminal. So what happens when you have a payment terminal is in a typical event, you pay with your card, but actually the payment information is cached and then the authorization is done later when the terminal is connected to the network. But what happens is that if a card is declined, you don't know at the time because the authorization happens later. And typically there is a certain percentage of transaction which gets declined. So if you're a retailer in a very large event and you don't have real-time connectivity, that's the cost of doing business. A certain percentage of cards, payments for whom you have provided, from which you provided the service actually gets declined later, so you don't get paid. But if you have connectivity through slicing, because you need to do it in a in an environment like Glastonbury, because there's a lot of demand on the network, then you have guaranteed connectivity, which means authorization happens real time. And so if a card is declined real time. So that problem from a merchant perspective is gone away. And so really, these are some of the many examples where you can actually, by enabling people to do things real time instead of later, by enabling people to be more mobile instead of being connected via cable to a satellite or some other form of telecom connectivity, by providing really enhancing remote monitoring and remote management capabilities, like the example of schools, swimming pool, electricity grid, but also being able to provide immersive experiences that work anytime, anywhere, across a nationwide network. These are really the opportunities where 5G, but even more 5G standalone with a slicing capability really makes a difference. Okay. And I genuinely think this is very, very exciting and open to a lot of opportunities, which we should go out and explore.
So many amazing examples there. And I must admit, as someone that's had 15 Glastonburys under his belt, I got very warm and fuzzy hearing that particular story. And I've also heard that, in particular, the problem that you described there is a huge problem in the skies. With the cabin crew selling duty-free example, people coming on with cards that clearly don't work, but they're not authorised in the sky until it lands, and they have a lot of problems with that. Apologies for going off grid. Does it work for those examples?
So that's a different kind of connectivity, but yes, the principle is fundamentally the same. Anything that can be provided from a mobile network grid, we are able to take away the problem.
And we've probably set off a lot of light bulb moments around the world, people listening to this. So what challenge do you foresee in anybody considering adopting and implementing these 5G technologies? Any tips or advice that you could share around them?
So I think if we think about the UK overall, one aspect that is often not given a lot of consideration to is that the UK is behind the majority of European countries with regards to the quality of mobile connectivity. And you can measure it in terms of download speed. You can have various measurements, coverage, etc. So and there are many reports from different associations. But if I think, for example, a recent report by OpenSignal, which is an independent party that monitors quality of mobile and fixed infrastructure around the world, we rank, I think we as the UK, the 8th from the bottom in a ranking of something like 35, 36 European countries with regards of mobile download speeds. And indeed, it's not uncommon for people to come from other parts of Europe or other parts of the world and be not particularly complimentary about the quality of mobile infrastructure in the UK. London is not one of the best cities in the world for quality of mobile infrastructure. And why am I saying this? Because I think one of the collective challenges that we have is investment. There's more investment that needs to happen in the network. The 5G rollout is not complete, and certainly 5G standalone rollout, the incremental investment are not complete. And it is such a priority that is being recognized by every government. So by the previous Conservative government in its wireless infrastructure, but also by the new Labour government in its, various policy manifestos. And so really being able to provide that, as I said before, the network is the nervous system of digital, really ensuring that the quality of our mobile network gives the UK what it deserves and what our customer deserves is really, really key. And that's why we've also, through the proposed merger between Vodafone and Three, we have taken a commitment to invest 11 billion in the network over the course of the integration to cover every school and every hospital with the 5G SA by 2030, and to really reach near nationwide coverage of actually 99% of the population of 5G SA by 2034. So really, long story to say that fundamentally ensuring that the quality of the digital infrastructure, including mobile network for the UK, is amazing and enables the UK really to lead on the world stage and to enable innovation and to enable greater efficiencies and to enable reduction of CO2 emission and to allow so many use cases that are really improve the quality of lives of us day to day, whether we are at a hospital or at a big concert or whatever. I think that's really the fundamental challenge that we all need to work on.
Wow, and I think that is a powerful moment to end on. And thank you so much for coming on here, demystifying the world of 5G standalone and bringing it to life with so many stories of exciting capabilities, real-world use cases, and how you're doing that. And before I let you go, I'm going to ask you to leave one final gift for everyone listening, as well as your insights. We have an Amazon wish list where I ask my guests to leave a book that means something to them or they'd recommend that we can add for everybody listening to check out. All I'm going to ask is, what book would you like to add and why?
It's probably a book that has been suggested before because it's not a particularly innovative suggestion, but let me put it anyways. The Alchemist, which I read it's a well-known novel a long time ago. But somehow the sense of opportunities, the sense of, human searching, following one's own dreams, but also sense of life as possibilities, and also the sense that the universe can conspire to give you what you're looking for. I find it very, very magical in a way, and in a way very, very similar to the topic of innovation, of change, and also the use of technologies to create new possibilities for the good of humanity at the end of the day. And I really think although it doesn't always happen like that, but I do think fundamentally that's why we should do innovation to enhance how we as humans live and to make it better.
What a great choice, a great book. I don't actually think it's on the list, so I'm going to proudly add that, and I would recommend it to anybody listening. And if anyone listening also wants to find out more about Vodafone, 5G, standalone capabilities, etc., is there any way you'd like to point them to find out more information?
If you go on our Vodafone website, there's a whole host of research and publication, as well as announcements of all the interesting things that we do day in and day out to really launch new services, prove more 5G SA use cases across several industries. So I would definitely recommend that for those who are curious to know more and also want to get inspired and say, oh wow, I hadn't really thought about that. That I can definitely, there's a lot of really great videos and use cases, a great opportunity to learn.
Awesome. Well, I will add a link to all that material and include a video on my website where we will promote the episode. And so much we covered there in a short amount of time. But the big standout for me is this 5G standalone, how it's going to bring along new capabilities like network slicing, which will enable network carriers to customize connectivity services for specific customers and use cases. And you provided so many great examples there of how it will effectively change the way internet travels across the network and is managed without impacting the customer experience, that experience that we all take for granted. But more than anything, just thank you for bringing it to life today in a language everyone can understand. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you, Neil. Lovely to be with you today. Thank you.
So as I wrap up my conversation with MG today, so many big takeaways about Vodafone's 5G standalone technology. And I think it's evident that the possibilities are both vast and transformative, from improving healthcare and media to from boosting concert experiences and at music festivals like Glastonbury. 5G SA looks set to reshape the way that we both live and work. But having listened to our conversation today, what are your thoughts on the potential impacts of 5G SA in your industry or indeed daily life? I'd love to hear your views. And you can do all that by simply emailing me, techblogwriter@outlook.com, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, just at Neil C. Hughes. Let's keep this conversation going because it is a topic that impacts each and every one of us. But that is it for today, I'm afraid. I'll be back bright and early tomorrow with another episode, another guest, where we'll talk about a completely different topic. And I will hopefully learn equally as much about this topic as yourselves listening. That's why I do this every day. But more than anything, just thank you for listening. And until next time, don't be a stranger.